You're watching a Highwire Media podcast. Welcome back to the Cinema Gold Show. As always, I'm your host, Larry Leese. And tonight we dive into Season 5 of White Collar. Before we do that, give me your thoughts on White Collar up to this season. And so far, what has been your favorite moment of White Collar? And with that, let's dive into today's episode, shall we? Season 5 of White Collar arrives like a house of mirrors, sharp, disorienting, full of reflections that distort the familiar into something darker. By this point in the series, the show had comfortably slipped into its groove. Neal Caffrey, the charming con artist turned FBI consultant, had a tenuous trust with Agent Peter Burke. Together, they had cracked art thefts, solved high society frauds, and even dabbled in diplomatic intrigue. But Season 5 pivots away from the glossy momentum of earlier seasons and instead leans into conflict, tension, and consequences. Where earlier arcs centered on clever heists or elaborate confidence games, this season focuses more intently on loyalty, identity, and justice, often questioning whether the lines between right and wrong have been blurred beyond recognition. It's a season where every character seems to be lying to someone, and most of all, to themselves. Everything is shaded in ambiguity. Even the title White Collar feels more ironic than ever. The visual palette darkens, conversations stretch longer. There's more unsaid between characters than said, and for fans used to the show's usual rhythm, this can be jarring in a good way. White Collar Season 5 feels like a deliberate pause in momentum to explore what these characters looked like when the spotlight dims and the moral shadows take over. With Jeff Easton returning as showrunner and a core ensemble that remains as sharp as ever, Season 5 makes some bold moves. Some of them land, some miss, but few feel safe. And that's what makes it one of the most emotionally resonant seasons of the series. Season 4 ended with a seismic twist. James Bennett, Neal's father and the man he barely knew, revealed himself not only as a former dirty cop, but as a fugitive who framed Peter Burke for a murder he committed decades earlier. That cliffhanger left everything suspended in distrust. It wasn't just a betrayal of the law, it was a betrayal of Neal's emotional foundation. He had spent most of his life romanticizing a version of his father that never existed, and now the man who had promised redemption had vanished again, leaving behind chaos in his wake. Season 5 opens in the wreckage of that decision. Peter is in prison, arrested on the basis of fabricated evidence. The reversal is almost poetic, ironic even. The one man who believed in law and order and justice finds himself shackled by the very institutions he upheld. And it's not just procedural fallout, the damage is deeply personal. Peter feels betrayed by Neal, not just professionally, but emotionally. Neal didn't pull the trigger, but he enabled the deception, hesitated to reveal the truth, and watched in silence as the system he once danced around swallowed Peter whole. Neal, meanwhile, is riddled with guilt. He wears it in every scene. His charm is dimmed, his usual verbal gymnastics are quieter, slower. It's a subtle but powerful performance from Matt, who captures a man haunted by the fact that his attempt to reconnect with his father has cost him the one healthy relationship he's ever built. Neal sees Peter as more than a mentor. He's the brother, the father figure, and in some unspoken way, the conscience Neal has never truly possessed on his own. Desperate to right a wrong without exposing his father or himself, Neal reaches for a solution that will define much of the first half of the season. A secret deal with Curtis Hagen, a criminal from his past. It's not just a morally gray decision, it's a return to darkness. Neal offers Hagen his talents, forging an illegal document that exonerates Peter. The price? Hagen now owns a piece of Neal's soul. This storyline isn't just compelling, it's devastating. It forces every character to examine how far they'll go to protect the people they love. Neal sacrifices his freedom and his values. Peter sacrifices his pride and safety. And the audience is left in the middle, watching a friendship unravel under the weight of secrets that should never have been buried. After years of being the steadiest hand in the game, Peter enters Season 5 under siege, legally, emotionally, and philosophically. The man who once served as Neal's anchor now finds himself untethered. Peter's arrest and imprisonment, however temporary, leave deep scars for a man who's made a career out of uncompromising ethics, the experience is nothing short of traumatic. Even after he's cleared, there's no real return to normal. The prison jumpsuit might be gone, but the institutional betrayal lingers. Colleagues begin to question his judgment. His name, long a gold standard at the Bureau, is suddenly associated with scandal. Worse yet, his promotion to special agent in charge, a position he spent years earning, feels tainted. It's no longer a reward, it's a political patch job, public relations move, and Peter knows it. The promotion changes more than his title, it changes his identity within the agency and within the narrative. He's no longer on the ground with Neal, working cases shoulder to shoulder. Instead, he's behind glass, making administrative calls, bound by red tape and political agendas. He's become part of the system he once wielded with integrity, and that distance, literal and metaphorical, begins to pull him away from Neal. The once symbiotic dynamic begins to fray. Neal doesn't know how to relate to Peter in a suit and tie behind a desk. Peter doesn't know how to trust Neal after what happened with Hagen in the forged confession. Their trust, once bulletproof, now feels like a relic of a more innocent time. The quiet tension between them simmers through several episodes, often coming to surface in conversations that begin with small talk and end with veiled accusations. Peter's struggles are not loud or dramatic, but they're deeply human. He is a man who's sacrificed friendships, family time, and personal ambitions in service of a principle he now sees bent and corrupted. Even his relationship with Elizabeth becomes strained, not in conflict, but in exhaustion. Peter begins to wonder whether being right is worth the toll it takes. Yet he doesn't collapse. That's what makes Peter Burke remarkable. He endures, he adjusts, he continues to fight for what's right, even when he's not sure what that looks like anymore. His arc this season isn't one of triumph, but of quiet resilience in many ways. It's one of the most grounded and authentic performances Tim DeKay has ever given. Curtis Hagen's reappearance in season 5 is one of the show's most calculated callbacks. Viewers last saw him in the pilot episode, a counterfeiter caught red-handed by Neal and Peter's combined cunning. His return isn't just nostalgic fan service, it's a thematic full circle. Neal's past is quite literally catching up to him, demanding payment in full. But Hagen doesn't threaten Neal with brute force. He uses something far more dangerous: leverage. With Peter's fate hanging in the balance, Hagen blackmails Neal into a secret partnership, coercing him into stealing a mysterious chapter from an old manuscript encoded in a centuries old music cipher. The job is elaborate, delicate, and illegal, which of course makes it the perfect Neal Caffrey challenge. But it also comes at the worst possible time. Neal is emotionally compromised, desperate to undo the damage his father caused, and more vulnerable than ever to manipulation. Mozzie, Neal's ever loyal confidant, reluctantly joins the operation, but not without protest. His instincts, always a step ahead, scream that something is wrong. In one memorable moment, Mozzie stares Neal down and says, "We're not just bending the rules, we're rewriting them." That line sticks. It's not just about a job, it's about their very identity as con artists who once took pride in cleverness over cruelty. Now, they're pawns in someone else's scheme. Neal tries to compartmentalize. He tells himself this is just one last con to fix everything. But the deeper he goes, the more his sense of control begins to erode. Hagen isn't like the other criminals Neal has bested in the past. He's methodical, patient, cold, and he knows exactly how to manipulate Neal's guilt like a marionette string. Things spiral when Hagen is murdered in cold blood by Rebecca Lowe, a seemingly innocent archivist who's quickly revealed to be Rachel Turner, a rogue MI5 agent with her own agenda. The job Neal thought he was controlling suddenly turns into something far more dangerous. Now he's entangled in an international chase for the Codex, and every lie he told to protect Peter becomes a liability that could destroy them both. By the end of the arc, Neal is physically free, but spiritually imprisoned. He's lied, cheated, manipulated, and been manipulated. The very line he spent 5 seasons towing is finally snapped beneath him. And for the first time, it feels like Neal might not know how to climb back. If Curtis Hagen was the ghost in Neal's past, then Rebecca Lowe is the specter of his future. When she first appears as a sweet, intelligent museum archivist, it's easy to be charmed. She shares Neal's love of art, his appreciation for detail, and even his taste in romantic mystery. Their connection seems so natural that it's almost suspicious. And that's exactly the point. Rebecca is a con in every sense strategic, manipulative, and emotionally precise. Excuse me. As their relationship develops, White Collar does something it rarely risks. It lets Neal be vulnerable, not charming, not flirtatious, vulnerable. We see him try to trust again, to imagine a life beyond the ankle marker, the FBI office. In the endless game of cat and mouse, for a few episodes, Rebecca seems like the bridge to that fantasy. Then it all crumbles. The reveal that Rebecca is actually Rachel Turner, a disavowed MI5 agent turned rogue thief, hits like a slap, not just to Neal, but to the audience. We've been conned right alongside him. Her plan, it turns out, is far more elaborate than simple espionage. She's hunting a legendary treasure known as the Moscone Codex, a 13th century manuscript encoded with clues and hidden truths. To retrieve it, she needs Neal's help, but she also needed his trust. Rebecca's betrayal is more than plot twist. It's thematic payoff. She's the manifestation of what Neal could become if he surrenders fully to the lie. No moral code, no remorse, just talent weaponized. In many ways, Rebecca is Neal's darkest reflection. She plays the long game, pretends to fall in love, and doesn't flinch when she murders Hagen in cold blood. She is the con Neal always feared he might be. And yet, even after her betrayal is exposed, the show doesn't let her devolve into a cartoon villain. There are moments, small ones, where Rebecca hints at genuine feelings for Neal. That ambiguity, like everything else in season 5, reinforces the season's central thesis. Nothing is ever as black and white as it seems. In the final episodes, as Rebecca's plans collapse and she's finally captured, her demeanor doesn't crack. She stays collected, even as Neal stares at her with visible heartbreak. In another life, they might have been partners in crime or in love. But in this one, they're just a man and a woman caught in their own con, doomed from the start. As season 5 races towards its finale, Neal is presented with something he's been chasing for years the promise of true freedom. Not a conditional release, not a monitored partnership, actual freedom. The FBI, recognizing his usefulness one last time, offers him a deal assist in taking down the notorious Pink Panthers, and they'll wipe the slate clean. It's the culmination of a long, winding journey, from charming thief to trusted asset. Neal has walked the razor's edge between redemption and relapse, and here, finally, is his chance to choose a new path. But it comes with a catch. Freedom, as always in White Collar, is complicated. What does Neal look like without the chase? Who is he if he's not dancing between two worlds? He agrees to the terms, ready to step into this final mission. Peter, too, is cautiously hopeful. For the first time in ages, they're on the same page again. There's a quiet scene where the two men look at each other, not as agent and informant, but as friends. And for a moment, it seems like the story might actually find peace. And then, everything shatters. Neil is kidnapped. The screen cuts to black. No warning, no clues, just absence. It's a brilliant and brutal twist. After 5 seasons of elaborate cons, this one is simple and stark. Neil Caffrey, the man who's always been one step ahead, is suddenly off the board. Viewers are left with questions. Who took him? Why? Was this part of his plan or someone else's? The finale doesn't give us answers. Instead, it gives us silence. And in that silence, the tension lingers. While season 5's overarching story is tightly woven, a few standout episodes rise above the rest, either for their emotional depth, narrative precision, or genre defying cleverness. So, we're going to take a look at 3 of the top episodes of season 5. Starting out, right off the bat, we head over to episode 2, Out of the Frying Pan. The early episode deals with the immediate aftermath of Peter's arrest. The dynamic is electric. Peter behind bars, Neal working in the shadows to get him out. It's not just suspenseful, it's emotionally rich. You feel the tension in every conversation. The episode also introduces the season's central dilemma. How far will Neal go to make things right? And then, just a few more episodes later, Icebreaker, episode 6. On paper, this is a lighter case, a sting operation involving Russian figure skaters and illegal smuggling. But it works because it brings back some of the show's old school charm. It reminds us that White Collar still knows how to have fun, even when the stakes are rising. Plus, the episode gives Jones a chance to lead an undercover op, offering him a long overdue spotlight. And then, 6 episodes later, at episode 12, we got Taking Stock. In the penultimate episode, the emotional stakes reach a boiling point. Neal is wrestling with his deal for freedom. Peter is finally opening up again, and Mozzie begins making contingency plans. The writing is sharp, the performances are top tier, and there's a moment between Neal and Peter, wordless, just a look exchanged, that says more than a monologue ever could. It's a perfect lead in to the devastating finale. White Collar Season 5 is the show's most introspective outing. It trades some of its trademark sparkle for something deeper, something rawer. It's about consequences, the kind you can't charm your way out of. Neal and Peter's relationship is tested in ways that feel real, painful, and earned. The cons are still clever, but they come with emotional collateral. The performances are uniformly excellent. Matt Bomer delivers some of his best work, layering Neal's charm with vulnerability and fear. Tim DeKay anchors the season with quiet authority, giving Peter a depth that's often underappreciated. The supporting cast, Mozzie, Elizabeth, Diana, and Jones, are all given moments that matter. But more than that, season 5 is about what happens when the lies stop working, when the masks start to slip, when the truth finally demands its due. It's about the cost of reinvention and the ache of almost redemption. Is it perfect? No. Some storylines feel rushed and others could have used more room to breathe. But it's bold. It dares to dig beneath the surface of its stylish facade. And in doing so, it delivers the emotionally charged season of White Collar yet. So, with that, that is our review of season 5 of White Collar. Let me know what you thought of season 5. Is there anything we should have covered? Anything we got wrong? Anything you disagree with? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you want to support the channel, you can give us a big thumbs up, or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. And anything you give, whether it's $1, $5, 10, 20, 50, 100, it all goes right back into this channel so we can continue creating even more content, bringing in new hosts, be able to pay them, and eventually take this show on the road. As always, you can find us on all major podcast platforms, including Good Pods, Amazon, Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you find your podcast at, we'll be there, waiting for you to listen. But for now, thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.